in hand on honeymoon street. You'll find the taste of love so sweet. We're gonna buck the trend that everybody else can lead. Keep walking on honeymoon street. Keep walking on honeymoon street.
Hi there guys, I'm Ross and I'm from FoodTravelMusicLove.com. Inspiration from the heart. This is a video kind of from the love section. This is to do with COVID-19, that dreaded word at the moment, but this is specifically to do with social divide, respect and mental health. Things that are really being forgotten here and are not gaining enough focus by mainstream media or even us as general public. We really need to be focusing on that for the sake of our mental health and the mental health of our children. I've been looking around for the last few months since lockdown on various Facebook groups, on my own pages, on community pages, other sort of group and band pages, really any kind of Facebook group now. The dreaded COVID-19 word or lockdown phrases come up. Now I'm kind of gauging about a 40% side who are strictly following the rules and who are very angry at the other side, around a 40% side who are strictly not following the rules and are quite frankly angry with the followers. And then there's about 20% of people who kind of just don't really go either way. They just kind of get on with it, or you know, they maybe wear a mask, don't wear a mask, etc. So the point is here, sadly, the masses are against each other, and we're seeing a social divide here that we've never seen before. People compare this to, you know, World War II, etc. Maybe in terms of restrictions and things. To be fair, I don't think it's anything quite like that. That was another level altogether. So it's slightly disrespectful to be referring to something where millions of people died in the same vein. So that's not really my bag, that. I actually think that this situation now, though, from a social point of view, is worse because we're kind of fighting with each other. Now, what we've got to get back to here, somehow, whether it's while there's still a pandemic going on or while there's not, we need to try and get back to some sort of unity between us, because this is breaking up families, it's breaking up relationships, it's breaking up friendships, work relationships, all sorts of situations here where people are almost scared to bring up the dreaded phrases for fear of offending the other party. Now, the only other video I've done in any way to do with this subject, and this will be the only other one, was right at the beginning of lockdown, and it was to do with separated parents because there was confusion there as soon as lockdown hit. That's no surprise really that there was confusion with the government information. There was confusion there because Michael Gove had said in the morning on 2 different channels that kids could not be taken from one parent to another. They had to stay wherever they were, and then on the next channel 20 minutes later he said they could. So I thought I'd do a video on that, but you'll see from that video that I made comments to allude that I was very much following it at that point, and I stuck to it for about 2 months. Hey, hi there guys, it's Ross here at FoodTravelMusicLove.com, inspiration from the heart. I'm out and about today, doing a kind of a love video to do with the COVID-19 and how to deal with that if you're separated from your kids. So yeah, I don't want it to be another vlog like everyone else has done. You know, I'm not here to tell you how to stay indoors, how to stay healthy and safe. That goes without saying. If you can't do that, there's something wrong with it. If you can't do that, there's something wrong with it. If you can't do that, there's something wrong with it. For me personally, it was once I started looking into the impacts that this will have on children in the future with the schools closing. It was the impact it had on my business and my ability to be able to look after my child, see my child. Nothing in life is worse than that. If you love your children, nothing is worse than having that fear of not being able to see them. And that's you know why I personally come from where I come from, because my little one's a long way away, so it costs a lot of money to be able to keep up a relationship with her. So anyone or anything affecting that's like the worst thing that can happen to anyone. And then I had a relative that passed away, and I found out that she had COVID-19 put on her death certificate. We all know it was nothing at all to do with COVID-19. And again, alarm bells started to ring then, and that's where I started to dig deep and start looking elsewhere other than, you know, mainstream media. And as soon as you start doing that, you start feeling like you're conspiracist. You know, you start feeling, oh, why am I having to go these areas to try and find this information out? But me, as an individual, I've never just believed something because I was told it. And I'll always teach Olivia to do that. Don't just believe something just because you're told it. You know, there's a lot of things out there that are said for certain reasons that are a load of old BS. The whole Michael Jackson trial and situation, absolute load of old nonsense there for me, and it only takes looking away from mainstream media to look at what the actual facts are, and that's all I've done here. Whenever the mask discussion has come up in the past, I normally bring up an analogy that normally stops the conversation dead. And it's not because I like to feel like I've won, but it's just there's not really much that anyone can say after that. People who say I wear a mask to protect people, that's fine, and that's fine. People can go around with masks all day if they like, you know. But don't knock the people that aren't wearing them or can't wear them. And when they knock those people by saying, how would you feel if you killed someone? And that really, really gets my goat out when people say, how would you feel if you found out that you'd passed on and one, you wouldn't find out. It's not going to happen like that. For starters, our test and trace system is pony at the moment in the UK. And two, you're not going to know in certain situations whether you pass it on. So that's irrelevant. But also, my point there is, I'll say to those people, prior to March 2020, well, actually, let's get it right, prior to about July 2020, because the government effed up and didn't put it in for about 4 months and started asking people to wear masks when it was all nearly done. Prior to March 2020, I'll say to those people, how many people do you think you may have inadvertently killed, if you want to be so cruel about it and so to the point and crass? How many people have you killed in that past? And they can't answer that. They'll get all confused. I think, well, this isn't the only thing that's ever been transmissible from human to human. There's been a number of things. You know, you could have given flu to anyone. You could have passed a cold on to an older person that sadly, caused their demise. So don't use that emotional blackmail. Don't say how would you feel if you done that? Because we've all probably, it's a horrible thing to think of, we've all probably passed on something that's knocked off loads of people out of the human race. It's an incredibly ridiculous analogy for people to come up with that. So ignore that. The social divide is the most worrying part of all this for me, because our children are seeing this, and our children have parents, some that are separated. Their separated parents may be saying different things to them. That's going in their mind. Then they go to school. Then they'll overhear teachers, staff, other parents talking about it and maybe having different opinions on it. It's all human nature. We all do it. So there'll be grown-ups and adults that are talking about it. Kids will be hearing that, wondering, well, what's going on and how do I deal with this? Then even the kids themselves, depending on the age group, probably from, the age of 6 upwards, the kids will be talking about it and passing on their parents' wisdom, about whether it exists, whether it doesn't exist. Oh, my mum wears a mask, my dad doesn't wear a mask. All of these things, these poor children, and no one's looking at this greater kind of bigger picture. So forget what's going on now. If we get told we have to watch Netflix for a month and get paid by the government, well, that's up to you if you want to put up with that or not. I'm not a big fan of that, but we all deal with those things in our own way. But that's the now. We can all worry and moan about the now, but nobody's worrying about the future. And, talking about the government paying us, these lockdowns, that's creating probably hundreds of years. We're not just going to pay off hundreds of billions of pounds in a couple of years, are we? That's going to be a debt to our children and their children, and we all know this, but that's the impact that it's having here. And that's probably why there's so much social divide and angst, because some people are thinking about that, some people aren't thinking about that. And it takes me back again to people having a backstory and a reason why they do things. So I think the frustration for the followers, the people that are sticking to every single rule, the frustration for them is quite apparently fear. They've been told what to do by the government, they're seeing other people not doing it, and they get angry because why aren't you doing that? I'm doing it, I'm doing my bit, you're ruining it for everyone else. Now that isn't factually true. That isn't how things work. That's just what is in them, and that's what they believe, and I totally respect that. I have no disrespect at all to anybody who's following rules and doing whatever they feel they should do to do their bit. The problem is it's kind of the two parties are kind of pulling away, and unity is getting further and further apart from ever kind of existing again, because the other side are thinking, well, hang on, you're creating this issue by continuing to follow. And they'd say, well, what's the alternative? What's the alternative? We have to do what we're told, And I think, right, so if the government were kind of all parked up down Beachy Head saying, well, I'm sorry, you've got to go for it, sir. It's the best for your family. Off you go, mate. it wouldn't happen, would it? So there's got to be there's got to be some common sense there somewhere. There's got to be a few boundaries and thresholds here in people's heads where they start to make their own decisions and kind of consider rationality for themselves without being told what to do by BBC News, Piers Morgan or Boris. I don't want to talk about, you know, the stats, the facts, the figures and all that sort of thing, because that's largely irrelevant here, because mainstream media are still following a certain narrative, and that means that a core part of the country are still following the narrative that they deliver, and therefore there's still going to be a social divide regardless, and this is what needs to be changed. We must try and find a way of communicating better. As soon as anything gets brought up on Facebook, I do my best now to avoid it. If it's anything to do with COVID-19 or lockdown or people using derogatory terms about someone else or a certain group of people, I try and avoid it and come off. And to be fair, if we all did that, then we'd have this social divide kind of receded a lot, you know, but I guess it would still fundamentally be inside us. The other sad thing is, even just among family and friends, I go up to someone, I don't know whether I can go up and give them a kiss on the cheek. I go to shake people's hands and I think, you know, is that right? Should they shake my hand? Like in business meetings, you know, I mean, we all do that, you know, the old football thing for a bit of a laugh and that. That can't go on forever, can it? You know, you're going, I don't know, would Boris and Trump be doing all that? You know, I mean, one of them could do with one of them right around the head. But, you know, we can't be going on doing that forever. So we still, are we going to lose all these kind of communication, language skills, like wearing a mask and things, lip reading? Are we going to lose all of these things because of something that's, you know, affecting 0.5% of people? It would be disastrous for us to be losing all of these things that we've built up over hundreds of years. And they'll gradually be lost, because already over 7 or 8 months, people just don't know how to communicate, and they don't know whether you're allowed to say something. You know, if it even gets brought up, it's one thing in a Facebook group or, you know, on Twitter, wherever else. It's one thing on social media, these things getting brought up. But I find it really uncomfortable chatting to a waitress, chatting to a waiter, chatting to a shop assistant, whoever it might be in day-to-day life, a neighbour, even more so like your family and friends who you might not see very much and you don't know what their feelings are. If you bring it up and you're on two different sides, it could be a really awkward situation, and that's so sad. And how is that going to be repaired? How are we going to knit these, you know, relationships back together again? How are we going to knit communication back together? I just don't know how that's going to happen. We've got to try and find a way of doing that before it is too late. And the three things come together. That's why I've done this video about social division, respect and mental health, because the three things in my mind are so connected. Because to repair the social divide, you have to learn to respect each other. You've got to learn to respect each other. It's a two-way thing. You can't go one side of society absolutely hammering the other side. You can't be saying, oh, you're an idiot, you're not wearing a mask, you're one of them. Right, okay, well, you should be following the rules, mate, because if you weren't following the rules, the government wouldn't have all this power and blah, blah, blah. It's just like, it's never going to stop if we do that. So you have to learn to respect people's opinions, and that's all it is. It's people's opinions. And again, the third part of it, why it's all linked, it's opinions often based on potentially how things have affected their health and their mental health. So, you know, we have to protect that. That's the most important overriding thing here. So on occasion, if I've broken the rules, if I've had, you know, a couple of extra people around, oh, well, rule of 8, rule of 6, rule of whoever's in my house, mate. So if I've had anybody else here, then it's been because it's for my mental health or my daughter's mental health, my family's mental health. You know, it's not just for the sake of, you know, getting a few cans of Foster's out. That's the impression that some people will have about certain people that do certain things. And it's got to stop. I'm getting to the point I'm getting angry about it, talking about it now. It's got to stop because it's just bang out of order. You know, people have got a right. This is where suicides are starting to go up. You know, because people have got a right to protect their mental health. Doesn't mean, you know, you go the other way. Don't get me wrong. There's some people that will just flout stuff anyway and put two fingers up, and that's each to their own. I'm not here to support those people. You know, that's up to them. There still should be a level of respect between two parties, but that's another level. You know, I'm talking about people that maybe, and one party may not know that they're doing this, maybe they're doing things for a reason. Maybe they are having to kind of get together for a reason. For all we know, that might be like somebody's last weekend. They might have somebody in their family that's passed away a few weeks later. Imagine shopping that family for maybe having 8 or 10 people there. This is a really morbid thought, but it's just an example. Imagine shopping that family. People say, how would you feel if you weren't wearing a mask and you passed something on? Well, I've already done on that. It's a load of old tosh, so it's irrelevant. How would they feel if they shocked a family for having 10 people in their house when, you know, grandpa was there and he was going to pass away? He knew that he only had a week to live. And they were going to stop, get the police in and fine them because they were going to stop that family having a last occasion with their granddad. It's it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Even talk of people shopping each other and all that for this sort of stuff. You nosy bastard. I mean, what is wrong with people? I was passing a shop in a town up in Lancashire, and I noticed at that shop, it was closed, but I noticed it had a sign there saying no mask, no entry. You know, and it was very firmly saying, you know, you won't be allowed in. Now, I thought I'd just help that business out. I rang them up. I made out as though I was from some kind of department or other. And I called him up and said, just so you're aware, I don't know if you are aware that sign there should be removed because you could be liable for fines. He was really, really happy. He sounded like he was almost in tears and shocked and, okay, yeah, no problem at all, yeah, I'll remove. And I thought, I felt good then. I thought I've helped him out. And then 5 or 6 weeks later, we went to like a regular restaurant that we go to 5 or 6 times a year, up in Penrith in the north of England. Really, really nice place. We went in there and I was there with someone else and obviously my daughter as well. And we didn't have a mask on. And they instantly said, right, okay, but they understood, yeah, we didn't have a mask, right, can we see some proof? We said, we haven't got any proof, there is no proof. Well, we need to see a doctor's note or something. I said, well, there are no doctors. And instantly, it gets you back up. And then both sides are instantly kind of, you've got this friction there. As soon as you walked in, when you're going in for a leisurely occasion, you've got this friction. Now, I understand why they're behaving like that, because he went on to say, well, we've been told by local police and authorities that, you know, if we don't do this and we don't ask this, you know, we're going to be fined £9,000-10,000. We've already lost 500 grand this year, but and I got all that. But obviously it's a lack of education, it's a misinformation, and it's the fear mongering that's done that to them. And then that's passed it on to us. We then didn't enjoy our time there at our lunch. I don't even think I ate anything. I sat there and I made sure that Olivia had something and my mum was eating, but it completely ruined us bored, that experience. I went on to show a card and my mum had a lanyard on, but we were explaining, we don't have to show you these things. You know, you have to assume if we haven't got these things on, if we haven't got a mask on, and we don't have those, assume that we're exempt. We know the rules. You don't stand outside at a pedestrian crossing, do you? And say, oh, don't cross the road, man. There's a car coming, you can't jump out. Yeah, I know I can't jump out. I'm not a window licker. Do you know what I mean? I'm standing here waiting for the zebra crossing. We don't get reminded of other things in life, so you have to assume, because we know the rules now, we have to assume that the rules are being followed, and if somebody hasn't got the mask on, you have to assume that there's a reason why they don't. So it's this conflict that it's created. What I'm getting at here is that conflict that this is creating by the rules is creating further social divide, awkwardness, unrest, and a lack of respect. And we've got to get that back. And when you're communicating to people, we've just got to try and do our best to just be nice, just try and be reasonable and rational. And it's very hard to do that with these things going on, but especially if you've got families and you've got kids, remember how long this is going to last for them. This is going to be something that could stay with them for the rest of their lives. You know, this could go on for generations if we allow it to. Not the COVID thing, I'm talking about the impacts on mental health and social division and respect. Those things could be with us now for generations. That's the real endemic, as far as I'm concerned, are the effects on our mental health. Because there may or may not be a vaccine and people may take it up, and I'm sure we'll get back to some sort of normality sooner rather than later, over the coming months, hopefully. I'm doing this on the first day of lockdown at the moment, which is the 5th of November 2020. So hopefully, you know, I'd like to think someone might be watching this in February, March, and we're all back to normal. I'm not sure. But the point is, we won't be back to normal up there and with each other. We won't be back to normal unless we try and do that ourselves. And I'm no guru on this, I'm not an expert, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor. Who am I, really? I'm so passionate about it. That's food, travel, music, love. You know, I'm there, this is part of the love section. I'm passionate about people respecting each other and allowing our children and our youth to have an opportunity just to flourish. you know, where's anyone's opportunities gone? They've just been crushed by everything that's happened financially, mentally and socially. We've got to get that back. Keep that mental health strong throughout this period. That's really, really important. And I've had to find my own ways of doing that. Obviously, fitness, walking, anything like that you can try and do for physical health can kind of work in tandem with your mental health. So that goes without saying. Again, a lot of people know that already, but you know, just find a get up and go to do it. And you know, some things are easier said than done. I get that. If your business has just been closed down, if you own a pub, if you own a business similar to mine, and you've just been told basically that you don't know when you're next going to see your next client, and you know, but what can you do? You can keep getting angry and fighting and bitter, but you know, at the moment, nobody's going to be listening at the top. You know, so by all means, keep your fight going on one side, but find some downtime in your head to not let this take over, especially if you've got kids. So don't let your kids see all this, and try and retain some level of normality for your children and for your families. So obviously, it was quite a passionate kind of video there. This stems from the heart for me, all of this. It's something that I'm passionate about and that I've gone through. We all have to remember that, you know, people normally have an angle, like I said, that they're coming from. So some people may have been affected by COVID or an illness, whatever COVID may be. Some people may have been affected by that and they're bitter about it. Some people may have had their business lost and they're bitter and angry about it. And each of those things are complete contrasts in what we're being asked to do at the moment, because it's going to make both parties act so differently. But somehow or another, we must find a way of bringing those people closer together again. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you got something from it. Please give it a share and a like, subscribe, by all means comment. I'm more than happy to speak to anyone at all about any issues going on. Mental health is so important. I'm a complete stranger. I'll more than happily give out my number and have a chat with anybody at all. I'm more than up for doing that. But I'm Ross, FoodTravelMusicLove.com, inspiration from the heart. Look after yourselves, stay sane.
It's me and you. Keep walking on.